Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Erin. My favorite investment vehicle is the Roth IRA. Hands down, it is my favorite account. Now, chances are if you're the type of person who goes around YouTube looking at money videos rather than, say, cat videos, you're probably a person who loves the Roth IRA too. But if you're new here or if the Roth IRA happens to be new to you, I have made an entire video on the Roth IRA itself, and I will link that here if I can figure that out, but for sure I will link it down below. Feel free to give that video a view if you're looking for more clarification or if you're looking for a more in-depth explanation on this account and why it is so fantastic. Very briefly, the Roth IRA is a tax-advantaged retirement account, and as of 2021, if you are under the age of 50, you can contribute up to $6,000 into this account every single year. If you are 50 and over, you can contribute $7,000. Now, it's important to note that whether or not you're eligible to contribute to a Roth IRA depends on your income. More specifically, your modified adjusted gross income. Now, what is that exactly? It is simply your gross income minus certain tax deductions and then with some of those tax deductions added back in, because it's the IRS, and why would they ever want to make anything very simple and very straightforward? It just doesn't happen, especially during tax season. And it's also important to note that things can get a little more complicated when your income is reaching those upper limits, because there's a phase out range where you're able to contribute some to the Roth, but you're not able to contribute that full amount. But since that's not really the purpose of this video, we're not going to go too in depth in that. We're just going to breeze past it. What you need to know, the big takeaway for this video, the general rule of thumb, those income limits for the year of 2020 are as follows. If you are single and you make less than $125,000 a year, or if you're married and you file your taxes jointly, because what's more romantic than that, and you and your spouse together make less than $198,000, you are welcome to contribute the full amount to each of your Roth IRAs. So you as a single person can contribute that $6,000, or if you're married and file your taxes jointly, that means you and your spouse can both contribute $6,000 to your own respective IRAs. And so why is the Roth such a fantastic account? It's because when you put your money in there, it grows completely tax-free. That means you put money in at 20, 30, 40, you let it grow until you reach full retirement age. You never pay taxes on that money or the gains it receives while in that account, ever. Once you get to full retirement age and you start taking your withdrawals from this account, you get to take this money out completely tax-free. That is because all the money you contribute to a Roth IRA is put in with post-tax dollars, meaning money you've already paid taxes on. Once it's in that account, it is a tax-advantage account and you never have to pay taxes on that money again. Tax-free money really is the best kind of money there is. Okay, so now that my very brief explanation of a Roth turned into a very long-winded explanation, let's get into the heart of today's video, which is, does it actually matter when you make these contributions to your Roth account? Because after all, you have the entire calendar year to make your contributions and really focusing on maxing out your Roth IRA. I mean, technically, you actually have until April 15th of the following year to focus on maxing out your Roth. What I mean by that is, for the year of 2020, you actually have until April 15th of 2021 to finish making your contributions for 2020. Because April 15th is when Uncle Sam actually finally closes the book on the previous year. I do want to say that I think it's bad practice to have your contributions from one year bleed over into the next year. At that point, it kind of feels like you're always behind and you're always trying to play catch up. So I think it's best to have your contributions for that year stay in that year. For example, for 2020, you should have all your contributions made to your Roth account for the year 2020 in 2020. Once 2021 comes along, you start that year fresh and making your contributions to your Roth IRA for 2021. Okay, so now that you know that you got to keep those contributions in that same year, let's get back to the final point. Does it actually matter when you make these contributions throughout the year? As in, should you try to make as many contributions as early as possible in the year and max it out before, say, June, and then you can use the rest of the year to focus on other investment vehicles? Or should you just wait until you have that end of the year Christmas bonus, just close out of the year bonus money, and take all that and put it in the account in the month of December? Or should you take the slow and steady approach and contribute $500 every single month, so by the time December comes along, you have your full $6,000 contributed to your Roth IRA? Does it actually matter? As long as the money's in the account, does it actually matter? Well, research suggests that there actually is a right answer. Research from Fidelity Investments actually says that for those who are willing and able to max out their retirement accounts earlier on in the year, in the first 6 months of the year, are actually able to retire with a significantly larger balance once they retire. And that's a huge deal because you're still contributing the exact same amount, just at a different time throughout the year. Well, just how much more money could you have in your accounts if you did this? If you were to consistently max out your Roth every single year in the beginning of the year, you could add an extra $10,000 to $15,000 in investment returns every single decade to your account balance. What would that look like by the time you retired? If you were retiring at 65, that could give you an additional $250,000 to $300,000 in your account balance. If you put off retirement until the age of 75, well, you could end up with an extra $600,000 in your Roth IRA account. That's incredible because this is all based on the same exact figures. It means you're contributing the exact same $6,000 a year, but you're contributing it in the first half of the year as opposed to in November or December. But maxing out your retirement accounts early on isn't something that most people do. In fact, according to Fidelity, only 9% of people actually max out their retirement accounts in the first half of the year, while a full 80% actually max out their Roth accounts in December. Now, why does it make such a difference? Well, the most important factor when it comes to investment returns is actually time in the market. The longer you're in the market, the better you're going to do, especially if you're investing in low-cost index funds. For example, if you invested your entire $6,000 in the early months of 2020, well, then you were able to capitalize and capture the vast majority of the market gains that happened that year. And those gains were quite spectacular. For instance, the Dow Jones returned a 9.7% in 2020. The S&P 500, it returned 18.4%. And as far as the NASDAQ, that returned a whopping 45% for the year of 2020. If you waited until the month of November or December to get your money into the Roth, congratulations, you got your money in the market, and that's amazing. But you also missed out on all of those gains for 2020. If you got your money early on in the market, you captured all of those gains for 2020. Generally speaking, the stock market goes up. Of course, no one knows what the stock market is going to do any single year, but the stock market goes up 74% of this time. Historically speaking, the stock market has gone up. And the good news is those up years far outweigh the down years. If you were to take all the positive years for the stock market and average the positive returns together, the stock market returns a whopping 21%. That's pretty incredible. If you were to take all the negative years, all the down years, and average those together, the stock market's down an average 14% for those down years. So the good news is that when it's up more than when it was down. Generally speaking, the stock market goes up. So you do yourself a better service to get your money early in the market in that year so you can capitalize on what most likely will be a positive year in the market. The sooner you get your money in the market, the better. That means you are going to be participating in the market longer and reaping the rewards of those market gains longer. Yes, I did say we have no guarantee of what happens in any given year in the market, but generally speaking, historically speaking, 74% of the time, the market goes up. So if you can invest your money early on in the year, well, then you can capitalize and capture those market gains for that year. You give yourself a longer time frame in the market. If you're constantly putting your money in at the end of the year, you're constantly going to be missing out on that year's gains. Now, if you're a person who dollar cost averages and say you're putting in $500 every single month, maybe that's all you can afford. Well, at that point, you're going to be capturing some of the market's gain for the years, but you're actually going to miss out on some of them as well, because some of your dollars are going in at the end of the year. It's not a bad place to be, but you're going to be somewhere in the middle. You're going to be missing out on some gains. You're going to be capturing some of them as well. So if you're a person who maxes out your Roth every single year, phenomenal. But let's take it to the next level. Let's start maxing it out early on in the year if you can, because then you are going to reap the benefit of being in the market longer. Your money is going to be working harder for you rather than you working harder for it. Now, if you can't max out your Roth IRA in the first 6 months, I don't want you to fret too much. I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade here. I'm just telling you the best way to put your money to work. Because if you max out your Roth every single year, you still get an A in my book. However, if you can max it out in those first 6 months, well, you're going to get an A+. So it just gives you a little bit extra credit. Because if you max out your Roth every single year, you're still going to retire with 7 figures. But if you can max it out in those first 6 months, you're going to have 7 figures plus $600,000 more. And who's going to turn down more money? Probably not anyone watching this channel, at least. But that's going to wrap it up for me today. I hope you guys learned something in this video. If you liked it, please give a like on the way out. If you're new here, consider subscribing. I will see you next week with a new video. Have a good one. Bye.